Hello and welcome back to Born to Rant. I'm Brandon. And this week we're going to start something new. I'm going to start doing quick rants on older movies that I've never seen. Sometimes the movies will be critically acclaimed, sometimes they'll be movies that you guys yell about in the comments, and sometimes they'll just be movies that jump out at me. We're just going to see how it goes. But one thing will always be true, these will always be shorter videos. I'm not going to get into the behind the scenes stories or legacies nearly as much as I typically do. And to kick off our first episode, I am taking a look at 1999's The 13th Floor, directed by Josef Rusnak and starring Craig Bierko, Gretchen Mol, Armin Mueller-Stahl, Dennis Haysbert, and Vincent D'Onofrio. The 13th Floor is a movie that's actually come up in the comments on my videos quite a bit, especially on the videos I did for Dark City, Gattaca, and 12 Monkeys. And so I just decided it was time to cross this one off the list, and I am glad I did. I genuinely think there is a lot to really enjoy about this movie. The cinematography and set design are absolutely beautiful, and the murder mystery itself is fairly intriguing, if not a little predictable. And just so you know, I am going to be getting into spoilers, so if you've never seen this movie, here is your one and only spoiler warning. But let's start with what I really liked about this movie, and that really begins with the cinematography of Vettigo von Schulzendorf and the production design of Kirk M. Petrocelli, because this movie has some truly amazing shots throughout. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you probably know that I am just an absolute sucker for anything noir or Art Deco, and I think that the 13th Floor really leans into those aesthetics in a fun way. I specifically like the way it bounces around between two different time periods. Personally, I thought the opening sequence of this movie looked incredible and really did rival the openings of fellow late 90s artificial reality movies, Dark City and The Matrix, especially as far as setting up the central mystery is concerned. But the 1937 era stuff I think looks absolutely amazing. It's not at all one-to-one, but I found myself thinking of both Gattaca and The Shining while watching this opening. Obviously, the Art Deco design and fashion bring to mind Gattaca, but this ballroom and bartender both feel very Shining-esque to me as well. And really everything set in 1937 looks incredible and is really fun to hang out in. I like that there's a noticeable change to the look of the movie when we go from the present to the past. It's just a nice subtle touch. This movie just ticked off all of the boxes I like to be ticked off for how I want a sci-fi noir to look. There was one other thing that really worked for me in this movie, and that of course is the performance by Vincent D'Onofrio. I don't think it's any coincidence that out of every actor in this movie, he's gone on to have the biggest career, and it's really not even close. Well, I mean, Dennis Haysbert has also been in a ton of stuff and is one of the two voices for Allstate Insurance. Also, how funny is it that both him and the other Allstate voice, Dean Winters, both had excellent roles on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What a show, you know? But seriously, D'Onofrio steals this movie from the first moment he steps on screen. He captures your attention, and you are not at all surprised when he opens the letter given to him and begins reading it. Something about his character just immediately feels strange, yet intriguing. And as the movie goes, I really liked watching his performance change. Not only change between Jason and Jerry, but as Jerry learns the truth about his world, he becomes more and more enraged and malicious. And I mean, who doesn't love seeing Vincent D'Onofrio act like a weirdo? He's truly one of the all-time greats. Also, D'Onofrio's monologue set to the flashback of him doing the end of the Earth test is absolutely fantastic.
And what I saw scared me to the depths of my miserable soul.
He really just nails this delivery, and the looks he's giving in the flashback are perfect and genuinely chilling. Now, as for what didn't work for me about this movie, this is the first and only movie I've ever seen directed by Josef Rusnak, who also wrote the script, but I don't think it's any real coincidence that this is the biggest movie he's made in his career, because this script is kind of a mess. Now, maybe that isn't entirely Rusnak's fault. He was, after all, adapting the novel Simulacron 3 by Daniel F. Galouye. So there is an element of existing story that he was already working with. But this story had already been adapted once before by Werner Fassbinder as World on a Wire, which was incredibly critically acclaimed, and I'm actually going to watch it in the next week or two just because I've always heard good things, and I've always really enjoyed Fassbinder's work. But anyway, I think one of the things that does kind of ruin the script for me is the fact that I'm watching it for the first time in 2026, and we've seen quite literally dozens of movies with similar plots and themes in the decades since this movie movie was released. Now, maybe if I was watching in 1999, it would have blown my mind. Who's to say? But in 2026, I found it so incredibly predictable. From the moment we meet Craig Bierko as Douglas Hall, it became clear to me that he was the murderer, and that the reason he couldn't remember it is because his body had been possessed, like we just saw a few minutes earlier with Fuller getting into bed in 1937. I also figured out that the 1999 reality was another artificial reality as soon as Bierko meets Gretchen Mol's Jane Fuller, and both keep saying they feel like they'd met before. It just felt very obvious to me what was going on. But again, I'm watching with decades of experience. Watching movies where people discover their reality isn't quite what they thought it was. I also thought one thing that really brought the movie down was the performances of the two leads. I just don't think either was quite ready enough in their career to tackle complex leading roles like this that required them to play multiple versions of the same character. That being said, I do think that Bierko is a lot more comfortable and fun to watch when he's back in 1937. He just feels more at ease to me, and his chemistry with Mol is quite strong as well. Also, really quick, I want to say I am not endorsing Mol's husband becoming a serial killer in these alternate realities, but isn't her killing her husband so she can be with a computer program that she fell in love with from afar like equally psychotic behavior? And speaking of treating the programs in these realities as less than, I actually did really enjoy how disappointed both Hall and Whitney were when they found out that all Fuller was doing in 1937 was going to a hotel and hooking up with young prostitutes. Like, the man's a genius who invented this entire artificial reality, and the first thing he can think to do with it is to be a total scumbag. And I really liked that Hall and Whitney were both genuinely disappointed by this.
Did you find out what he was doing down there?
Yeah. He was having sex with girls.
You're kidding me.
All right, I think I'm ready to wrap this up. Let's get into my final thoughts. The 13th Floor is a deeply uneven movie, and I think that me watching it 25 plus years after its original release really only hurts the impact that this movie is going for. Honestly, I would say that this is a movie you should watch if you're really interested in cinematography and set design, but if those things aren't super interesting to you as far as filmmaking is concerned, you can probably keep skipping this movie. However, I would like to see movies return to looking this nice. Like I said, I really think that the production design and cinematography are absolutely fantastic. Then again, I'm always going to complain that I want new movies to look better and remind you that even mid-budget flops from the 90s used to have absolutely beautiful cinematography. But let me know in the comments, what do you think of the 13th Floor? Where does it rank for you amongst the other late 90s reality-shattering movies? Should I cover Existence next and really finish out this trend? If you've made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. It truly means the world because Born to Rant is a completely independent channel, and I use absolutely no AI in the making of my videos. And if that means something to you and you got this far into the video, I would really appreciate it if you would like the video or subscribe to the channel. It really helps small independent creators like myself out. And before we go, a very special thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon. You all really keep things running over here. There's a link to the Patreon in the description below if you'd like to learn more. And that's gonna do it for Born to Rant this week. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.